Why is this so important? This is a 5-to-1 chord progression, and it's one of the most used chord progressions from classical, jazz, pop music, and EDM. So what makes it so special? If we take a major scale and give each note a number like this, we have 7 different notes, and then the octave, which gets us back to 1. It's the first note of the scale, just an octave higher, so we start back at 1, and the pattern keeps on repeating itself. Sometimes you will see this referred to as scale degrees. It's just a simpler way of talking about scales because the notes in a scale change as you change keys, but the scale degree numbers will stay the same. Some scale degrees are very stable, like the first, third, and fifth. In fact, these 3 notes make up the first triad of the scale. This is the core of the key where most chord progressions will end up. It releases any tension that was built up in the music and provides a nice pause to launch into the next part of the music. Other scale degrees are very active, like the 4th and the 7th. They create dissonance when compared to the tonic triad. Even though they create dissonance, they're very close to stable scale degrees 3 and 1, so you will tend to see 4 and 7 resolve to 3 and 1, respectively. So we have these 7 notes, and we can build triads on top of each of these notes. This gives us the diatonic chords of the scale. And each of these chords can be grouped into 3 main functions: tonic, subdominant or predominant, and dominant. Tonic function chords are our destinations in the music. We will usually end on one of these at the end of a chord progression. Predominant chords serve as a bridge between the tonic and dominant function chords. And dominant function chords are what create the most tension in the music that will want to be resolved to one of the tonic function chords. If we think of this key signature as its own galaxy out in space, the Galactic Core would be the tonic triad. This chord has so much gravity to it that all of the other chords are drawn into it. Orbiting closely around the tonic triad is another tonic function chord, the minor 6. It may not be as popular a destination as the 1 chord, but it also functions as a tonic chord. Next, we have the subdominant or predominant chords that orbit a little further out from the core. These serve as transition chords between tonic and dominant chords. And finally, we have the dominant chords, which orbit the furthest away from the core because they have some of the more active scale degrees, like the 4th and the 7th. If we think of a chord progression as starting near the Galactic Core, we can travel from here to the minor 6, then further out into the predominant orbits of major 4 and minor 2. Now we can move to the furthest orbit of a dominant chord. Since these dominant chords have some of the most active scale degrees, we will get pulled back towards the Galactic Core, where we will end back on the tonic triad, major 1. And we get to begin our journey all over again. Here's that chord progression one more time. Now that we understand the functions of the chords and why the 5-to-1 progression sounds good, because it releases all that tension and gets us back to the core of the key, is there a way to make that 5-to-1 relationship last longer? Can we expand it? Here's that original 5-to-1 progression again. Since we're in the key of C, the first note of the scale is C, and a fifth above that is G. That's how we got our first 5-to-1 relationship, but what if we start on G and find a chord with a root a fifth above G? So starting on G, we go up, we get D. What is the chord in the key of C that has D in the root? It's the 2 chord, and the triad has D, F, A. So if we put this chord in front of the 5 chord, we will get a similar 5-to-1 feeling because the root of these 2 chords is a fifth apart. Now we have a 2-5-1 chord progression. This is another extremely popular chord progression, especially in jazz. If we keep working our way back from here, finding the chord with a root a fifth above the current chord, we will eventually get back to 1. Here's what this chord progression sounds like. Congratulations, we just made a chord progression using every triad in the key. Normally, you won't see a chord progression that uses every triad in the key, but this is a nice exercise to see that you can make almost any chord progression you want to. Remember, music theory rules aren't unbreakable. Some of the most famous composers broke the rules and made up their own. Music theory can be nice guidelines, though, if you want to sound like a certain composer or a certain style of music. But feel free to experiment with your music and find what you like best. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, please check out the Patreon link below.